Hello and welcome to Study Forum. Today I'll teach you a poem on Jennifer's Tiger. First, let's look on the poet, the background of the poem, and then I'll explain you stanza-wise the whole poem. Okay, so let's get started. On Jennifer's Tiger. Poem by Adrienne Rich. Adrienne Rich was feminist, and in this poem she had shown her concern toward women in the male-dominated society. At her time, a woman was only supposed to be dutiful homemaker. This poem, through the world of Aunt Jennifer, tells us about her inner desire to free herself from the clutches of abusive marriage and patriarchy society. So Adrienne Rich was born on 1929 and died on 2012. She was an American poet, essayist, and feminist, one of the most widely read and influenced poet of the second half of 20th century. She talks about a woman's experiences in her married life. She has tried to explore the inner feeling of women who is living under the dominance of men. So now let's start the poem. Let's begin. The first stanza. And Jennifer's tiger prints across a screen, bright topaz denizen of a world of green. They do not fear the man beneath the tree, the pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. So in this stanza, she is talking about a lady whom she addresses as Aunt Jennifer. She is embroidering a piece of cloth. It could be a tablecloth or a wall hanging or anything. The pattern she is drawing are the tigers who are moving and jumping around all over the fabric. They are bright yellow in color, like the color of the topaz stone. It is a metaphor used, and the dense green forest background is their home. They are proud, fearless citizens of the forest. Here is a contrast between Aunt Jennifer and her tiger. The tigers are fearless, but this lady who is embroidering them is not so. The tigers look elegant, shining, and full of gentleman's grace. First, let me explain you the meanings of the hard words used. So the word prince means to move or walk around with high springing steps. Or you could say proudly and confidently, walk confidently and proudly, and a little bit faster. Topaz is the yellow colored stone. Denizen means actually here an animal that lives or is found in a particular place. It's the animal. So here there is a metaphor used to express the tigers and the background of the green world. Sleek means elegant, sober, or just decent, and chivalric means being courteous, especially to the women's. Act nicely to them, nicely to the women's. That is what chivalric behavior is called. Okay, so the poet is describing a lady whom she addresses as Aunt Jennifer. She says that Aunt Jennifer is doing embroidery on a piece of cloth, which could be any kind of a cloth, tablecloth or wall hanging cloth or any cloth. She has designed it with beautiful tigers, which are running fearlessly in the green forest. She has described their beauty by comparing them with a precious yellow stone known as topaz. She says that they appear bright yellow in the green backdrop of the forest. Means the tiger's color is yellow like the topaz, shining yellow tigers in the green forest. They are fearless and they are not affected by the presence of man. Here we can sense the contrast of behavior between tiger and Aunt Jennifer. Though the tigers designed by her are fearless, but she herself is afraid of her husband. Further, the poet says that the tiger are proud and fearless citizens of forest. They are very shiny and elegant. Okay, so let's go through some literary devices or poetic devices. So the rhyming scheme of the whole poem is AABB. The figure of speech used is metaphor because the topaz describe the yellow color of tigers, bright topaz, and anaphora. Anaphora because the two lines next to each other start with the same word, they. The third and the fourth line starts with they, same word. That's why it's anaphora. So now the second stanza. On Jennifer's finger, fluttering through her wool, find even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. The word fluttering in the first line means shaking or trembling. So, the lady's fingers are trembling with the fear of her husband. She is pursuing her hobby in her free time, but she is afraid of her husband, and her fingers are therefore trembling and are tired of working endlessly all her life. The needle is also heavy for her to pull out of the cloth. It's not heavy because of the weight, but it is hard for her to even do that because she is so much afraid and her hands are trembling, and therefore it is very hard to her. The word heavy means the hardship, the fear, the hands are trembling, and all that situation is heavy for her. The word Uncle's wedding band, as the band was bought by her husband, it is his still today. The lady is dependent on her husband. She is still burdened by the weight of the ring that has fallen upon her by getting married to him. That is, she is burdened by the obligations of her life, the marital obligations. She is so tired of that and burdened and under pressure of those. She has been living a demanding life due to which she has worn out in her old age. Here, the poet describes the fear of Aunt Jennifer towards her husband. She says that while she is doing embroidery, her fingers are shaking with fear of her husband. Her husband doesn't approve of her hobby of embroidery. Therefore, she trembles when she is embroidering the piece of cloth. It has become difficult for her to pull her needle up and down. Then she describes the wedding ring which was given by uncle to Aunt Jennifer on their wedding day. She says that it is a kind of burden for her to wear this ring. She has been tortured. She has been tortured by her husband so much that the wedding ring, which would have been a gift for her, seems like a burden to her. She has faced so many difficulties in her marital life that the little ring is described as a heavy band on her trembling fingers. This means that the ring is associated with some bad experiences in form of torture. All the tortures and the bad experiences that she had in her marriages. So again, this rhyming scheme is AABB, and the figure of speech used is alliteration, that is the repeated sound, and here the repeated sound is of F, sound F in finger and fluttering, both with F. So that's why alliteration. Okay, so that was about the second stanza. Now third stanza. When Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with odor she was mastered by. The tiger in the panel that she made will go on praising, proud and unafraid. Okay, so in this stanza, her wish to live a free, fearless life is indicated by her choice of designs, that is, the tigers. It shows her innermost desire of being strong, fearless, which has been overpowered by her husband. The word ordeal means extremely severe test or experiences. She says that probably her ordeal will end upon her death. Her supreme or extreme experiences will end when she would die. Her frightened, shaking fingers will be put to rest, but still, even after death, the ring shall remain on her hand. That is, her husband's rule over her is yet not over, even after the death. So, after her death, her desire of freedom and fearlessness shall remain alive in these tigers that she has embroidered. The poet says that one can easily sense Anne's desire of freedom and fearlessness through her designs of tigers. Further, she says that it is not possible for Anne to achieve this freedom during her lifetime. She will attain it only after her death, but here also the irony of her life is that still she would be tied up in the form of her husband's wedding ring. She would be tied up till the death. She would be tied up with her husband's torture. On the other hand, there are the tigers designed by Aunt Jennifer, which will always depict her desire of living a fearless life by jumping proudly and bravely on the piece of cloth. So that was about this stanza. The rhyming scheme is AABB, and the figure of speech is used alliteration because again there is the repetition of the sound p, praising and proud. So that was about the poem. Okay, so let's go through it once again. The whole summary of the poem. The poet expresses her inner feeling of a woman, Aunt Jennifer. The aunt is embroidering a motif comprises of energetic, fearless tigers moving freely around the bright greenery. She is living a life of submissiveness to her husband's command. Her acts are dominated by him, and she fears him constantly. This pattern of the free, fearless tigers reflect her inner desire to live a free and fearless life. The tigers are graceful, elegant, and bright. Aunt Jennifer's fingers trembles as she embroiders. She is old, but still fear of her husband is there. She does not enjoy the freedom to do anything as per her wish. She is scared constantly even while doing the embroidery. It is very hard for her to do that because she is trembling, her hands are trembling of fear. Since the day she got married, she has been fulfilling all the demands of her husband. Then she says that the wedding ring on her hand is a constant reminder that she belongs to her husband. The burden of demanding marriage has exhausted her. She is exhausted by the marital obligations of her life, of her husband. The torment will not end until her death. Even after her death, the ring will remain on her hand, and she will never be free. On the other hand, the tigers that she is embroidering will continue to move around freely forever. Her desire of freedom and fearlessness will live on through her tigers. So that was all about the women who is being suppressed and in this patriarchy world. The woman who is constantly scared and dominated by men. So that was all about the poem. If you have any doubts or questions, write that in the comments. Thank you.